up several stops along the way when you check in with what he did. Of course, 02 through 04, those were the Bobby Johnson years. Bobby gave him a great opportunity as a player, and then he worked his way up the coaching ladder. 6 different schools. He was the linebackers coach. He was the defensive coordinator for Notre Dame 3 years, appeared in multiple playoffs with the Fighting Irish, and now the head coach named in December of 2020 for his alma mater. This is the dream job that he has wanted. He's gotten it, and now he is ready, fired up, and so too is this program. Of course, Kirk, that's the #1 building block. The #2 building block for any football program is the quarterback spot. They got some really good play out of Ken Seals last year as a freshman. He's a sophomore now, and he's got a really good backup in Mike Wright as well.
Well, if you're a new head coach in a new program, to me, Clark Lee, you have a quarterback in Ken Seals who you trust and you believe in. You saw what he did last year as a freshman and got a lot of comparison to a former quarterback here at Vanderbilt in Jay Cutler as a freshman. Broke a lot of records. So to me, Ken Seals won the job last year, and I think this year so far in fall camp, he's led this offense. But then you look at Michael Wright. He's the guy that brings a different element to this offense, a guy who is a little bit more dynamic, but at the same time presents something for a defense that you have to game plan for. We'll see both guys tonight, but Ken Seals will be leading the way.
Well, for more on that quarterback room and this matchup as a whole, we say hello to the third member of our broadcasting crew, Dawn Davenport.
Yeah, you guys were talking about Ken Seals. That's no longer true freshman quarterback Ken Seals, and he told me there's no writing off mistakes to inexperience and youth this year. He said he felt like there were times last year where he got lost in the moment, and because of that, he spent extra time this fall with the team's mental performance coach, Kayleen Curry, working with her at least once a week, even kept up with it over Zoom while he was at home on break. They've worked on different strategies for getting past a disappointing play. He told me that the training has allowed him to better focus on the task at hand. Guys, that has made him not only a better quarterback, but a better leader for this Commodore offense.
And that's something that Vanderbilt could certainly use, is some leadership. Think about what Ken Seals had to battle last year. A running game that produced very little. An offensive line that was ravaged by COVID. And here he comes in as a true freshman, winning the job, starts all 9 games. The third SEC true freshman to start an opener since 1972. He completes 65% of his passes and throws for over 1,000 yards. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers out of Johnson City, Tennessee, ETSU, offensively, they hope to be better than pedestrian this year under Coach Randy Sanders. But defensively, that is their strong suit. It certainly was a year ago. They were #1 in the highly competitive FCS league in the SoCon, #1 in scoring, #1 in rushing, #2 in overall defense, Kurt. They're going to try to be salty today against a Vanderbilt offense that struggled last year.
Yeah, but look, when you bring everybody back on defense, guys who played in the spring, there's not a lot of teaching. Guys know the system, they know the scheme, but a lot of these players, they remember the last time playing Vanderbilt. So look, they're looking for a little revenge as well. An outstanding defense for ETSU.
ETSU won the toss. They defer. Vanderbilt will start off the 2021 campaign on offense. Cam Johnson, Devin Body back to receive. One thing that Vanderbilt feels confident about this year is the overall depth in their receiving core. A couple of them will be involved in the return game throughout this season, including Johnson, their leading receiver from a year ago. Kick is on the way, and we are underway. It'll be Cam Johnson from near the goal line. Johnson weaving his way and is helicoptered down at the 25-yard line. And the Commodores will take over 1st and 10 for the man of the hour. That is Ken Seals, sophomore out of Weatherford, Texas. He only started 2 years in high school, and in those 2 years, he took an 0-10 team and turned them into a playoff team while throwing for 53 touchdown passes. So our first look at the Vanderbilt offense, and we'll see just what they have in store in 2021.
And look, you don't want to see the big play early on. You kind of want to ease into this game a little bit. How does David Rod, the offensive coordinator, get Ken Seals situated in this game?
They'll go in between the tackles on the ground on 1st down, and that'll be the newcomer, Raymond Davis, the transfer from Temple. And they'll go tempo here on the opening drive. It'll be second down and short. Seals, Coxon fires, completes at the 41. And backing his way out of bounds near the 45-yard line. That is Will Shepard, a 6'3 sophomore out of Louisiana. They've got some tall and long wideouts.
Yeah, tall and long, but the tempo right now keeping ETSU on their heels.
Trips to the near side. That's where Seals will fire, but there is some heavy traffic. DeAndre Davis breaking up the pass intended for Shepard again.
Yeah, DeAndre Davis, he read that from the beginning. He saw the alignment of the wide receivers, and he expected screen right away. Watch the trigger. He sees it, and he just goes. That's an outstanding job by an outside linebacker, seeing a play, but believing the play, and going in and making a tackle for a loss.
Seals working out of the shotgun. Davis, the lone back, on second down. They will feed Davis. Davis trying to get to the edge and is upended at the 47-yard line. That's Karan DeLintz, the senior out of Phoenix City, Alabama, after a gain of 4 yards.
I thought I had something there. I know Ramon Davis thought he had it, but watch DeLintz. You mentioned that corner. That's corner support. A nice outside-in tackle. You see the angle? Came from the outside, came inside. If he misses that play, it could have been a big gain for Davis. We just talked about how good this ETSU defense was a year ago. So far, a couple of nice tackles on the outside on the perimeter.
We'll try to lead the way in this ball game tonight. Meanwhile, third down and call it 6. From the 48 of Vanderbilt. Johnson in motion at the near side. Seals flushed out. On the run, almost picked off. An incomplete. Shepard was the intended target, but it was DeLintz jumping the route.
Outstanding job by DeLintz. So third down, that's what ETSU does on the first opportunity for them. What? They play man-to-man. And watch DeLintz. He reads the eyes of the quarterback. Ken Seals was going to Shepard the entire way, but DeLintz steps in front of that. And I tell you, Mike, he should have had an interception. That should have been a pick 6. That just went right off his hands, but it's a great read of understanding the route concept and man-to-man coverage.
So the drive stalls near midfield. Harrison Smith on to punt for the Commodores. Huzzy back to receive. Will let it sail over his head, and that'll bounce into the end zone, or will it? No, that stopped. Took an awkward bounce, a very beneficial bounce for Vanderbilt, and that'll be dead at the 1-yard line. A 55-yard punt and no return.
Is that pin high?
Yeah.
Nice little pitching wedge that stops right there at. It looks like the pylon just before. It's an outstanding job early on. And this is what Vanderbilt wants to do, play good special teams as well. That's what Clark Lee is presenting now as a head coach. He's going to be a CEO. He's looking over special teams, offense, defense. He's got coordinators in place, but he's keeping an eye on those special teams.
Tyler Rydell, the 5'11 redshirt freshman out of Tampa, Florida. Chamberlain High School will be starting things off from a precarious spot in his own end zone. Trying to push the pile ahead to get a little more breathing room. Then he'll take it out to the 4-yard line, a gain of 3.
Yeah, good play call early on. You're in the shadow of your own end zone. Get a little breathing room. You don't want any mistakes, fumbles, missteps can result into a bad situation. So get a little bit of breathing room. Now see if you can get into your regular offensive routine.
You get the feeling, talking with head coach Randy Sanders, the plan might have been Brock Landis, but he's been banged up. He's number 2 now on the depth chart. They said he'd be a game-time decision today whether or not he could play at all. Again on the ground, and again straight ahead running, stacked up at about the 7-yard line. That's Clay Holmes, and if they're going to have a good day on offense today, number 1 in white is going to need to play huge.
Yeah, one of the all-time leading rushers in ETSU history. Can be one of the best they've ever had. He's going to get the ball a lot, not only in the backfield, getting it out of the backfield. He does a tremendous job in multiple areas, but this is where he's going to have to be key right here. Third down, keep your eyes on number 1.
A third down and 3. They need the 11-yard line. The Commodores bring the blitz here. Four-man rush. Throw is low and incomplete. Intended for Malik Murray at the 15-yard line. That would have been good enough for a first down. It looked like the throw hit the ground. So a quick 3-and-out for ETSU.
Yeah, it's a bad throw. That ball bounced before it got to the wide receiver, and that's one thing that early on you got to make that throw. If you're ETSU, you got to make the plays that are there to be made. That was one that should have been made. It should have been an easy pitch and catch. But remember, little nerves as well for the redshirt freshman Tyler Riddell.
Cam Johnson parked at the 50-yard line, ready for the return. High spiraling kick. Johnson waves for the fair catch. And Vanderbilt will start the second drive in plus territory. No score here from Nashville.
Welcome back to Nashville, Tennessee, where ETSU has really been the more physical team here tonight. Quite a few guys who were on this team that played Vandy back in 2018. Randy Sanders told us that they were a little intimidated back then, but he felt like that would not be the case this time. Those guys were now used to it. They faced App State. They faced Tennessee. Not afraid of this situation. No intimidation. He said they'll have a healthy respect, but no fear. And guys, that's exactly what we've seen from this ETSU team this entire game, and I felt it on the sideline too. They have never wavered.
Yeah, if anything, not only fearless, growing in confidence by the minute.
On the previous spot, first down.
Pass interference that time on ETSU, one of the rare mistakes by that defense, which has been as good as advertised, if not better.
Yeah, you mentioned that's a rare mistake, and honestly, I don't see pass interference there. He's right there, given the opportunity. I guess he interfered with Shepard's ability to catch the football, but again, they're in the right spot in good coverage.
First down for Seals, flushed out. And Seals will scamper out of bounds, and there's a late hit. Well, if ETSU wants to help Vanderbilt get back in this game, they're doing a good job with the last two plays.
Yeah, that's free 30 yards. You know, they got 15 yards on the pass interference, and now it'll be 15 yards late hit out of bounds. And that's how Vanderbilt can get back in this game. It's, remember, they need to score points right away. They need to score points fast. And if you were helping them out, this game's not over. There's still a lot of time left on the clock. We've seen some crazier things happen. But that's just unfortunate. Just playing to the whistle. That's what Randy Sanders preaches.
From the end of the run, first down.
I don't think there was anything malicious by that. That's just a big man running to the outside and hanging on just for a little too long.
If nothing else, I'm glad we might actually make it through a whole game without a targeting penalty.
Very true.
I think that ejecting a player on a targeting penalty is something that really needs to be looked at. Next year, 2022, will be a year for more significant rule changes. Another penalty flag on the completion to Will Shepard, who's kind of become the main target tonight for Ken Seals.
But again, another holding call. It's positive plays and then back him up 10.
Personal foul, chop block, offense, number 54 and number 6. 15-yard penalty from the previous spot, remains first down.
Yeah, when the tackle's engaged, watch the left side, the tackle's engaged. And once he's engaged, the running back can't go low. So that's a miscommunication there by tackle and running back Ramon Davis on the high-low.
First and 25, ball caught. Gets some of the penalty yardage back. That's Davis on the reception, Huzzy on the stop, a pickup of 10.
I've seen great leverage from ETSU when they're tackling. We saw it earlier in the game, and I said, man, I'm impressed. They take the perfect angles and bringing guys down to the ground.
That ball caught in stride for one of the rare times tonight. Shepard caught it. It was about an ankle tackle away from making that a big gainer.
Again, another big tackle in the open field. He doesn't make that tackle, probably a touchdown, but just enough to get Shepard to the ground.
Obvious 4-down territory, 3rd and 5 here. Quick slant, caught, first down at the 25. It's Cam Johnson.
Now you got to start thinking of taking shots at the end zone. If you're down 3 scores, you got to start taking some shots at the end zone.
Seals now running out of time and throws it away. I'm looking 1, 2, 3, 4 receivers in the pattern. I see 0 separation.
that's the one thing that I'm surprised with, because at least take some shots at the end zone with the height advantage that you do have.
Right.
But again, we haven't seen Seals even put the trust in his guys to throw the ball, give him a chance, give him an opportunity. I think he's been trying to make the perfect play. That's just not going to happen tonight.
8th play of the drive. Seals will tuck it and run. Plenty of daylight. First down yardage and down to the 5-yard line. Biggest run of the night for Ken Seals. Price saves a touchdown for the Bucks, a gain of 20.
Yeah, that's a nice little, you find a crease and find a lane, get the yardage that you need.
And now an injured player. That's Tyree Robinson, the safety, down at the goal line. And a tough break for Vanderbilt, because that's the first time we've sensed flow and rhythm in this offense really all night.
And then the old cramp, right?
And then the old cramp happens.
The old cramp happens.
Now you don't think, nah. Now for Vanderbilt, it's not just been a game of missed opportunities. It's been a game of second-half mistakes.
Yeah, mistakes just hurt. And it's been the poor tackling defensively. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 missed tackles there on the defense. And then you give the ball to the offense, and you get a penalty for illegal man downfield on what would have been a touchdown. Be a much
ineligible receiver downfield.
different game.
Number 50.
And I think the biggest mistake of them all is just, again, just a 4th down play that just nothing was there, which you understand, but that was the play for me of the game. That really kind of put this game away. An unforced error. The ball was not knocked out. The ball just slipped out of Ken Seals' hands, resulting in a touchdown.
Now, in a lot of ways, this has been the most successful drive thus far, but that'll mean nothing if they can't find pay dirt. Throw back at the end zone. Try to hit one of those receivers. That's actually the non-tall one of the bunch. That's Cam Johnson. They got a bunch of guys who look like NBA shooting guards with their size and length. Cam Johnson more of a possession underneath guy.
I thought 6 foot was tall though, Mike. Right?
It is for a guy like me.
I thought the 6 foot guy was tall, man. When receivers used to be between 5'9" and 6 foot, and now we call him the 6 foot guy the short one of the bunch.
You know what? I'll take a 6 foot guy who can get open over the 6'4" guy who can't separate any day.
You're speaking the truth right
there. People are obsessed with 6'4" receivers. It's great if they can run. Oh no, through the hands and then picked off by DeLinch, and DeLinch has nothing but daylight ahead. A foot race that he will win. 99-yard score. Touchdown Buccaneers. Might have a taunting penalty at the end. We'll clean all this up. Will Shepard had the ball through his hands, the pick, the 99-yard scamper, and a silly penalty at the end.
Unsportsmanlike conduct, defense number 3. By rule, the penalty is enforced from the spot of the foul, therefore canceling the score.
Yeah.
It'll be first down, ETSU.
Yeah, this is a rule that was implemented a few years ago in the college game. For the record, I think it's awful.
Yes.
But how you take away a touchdown on that? But this is the rule, and so he just cost himself a touchdown.
There it is. It's, first of all, a pass that's high behind Shepard, and DeLinch, who's had a great game in tackle, right? But it's still, how many guys are in the vicinity? There's 3 guys. He's trying to fit it into a tight window, and DeLinch just takes off, and he runs. And I agree with you, Mike. I am just not a fan of this rule. I don't even know, how was that really honestly taunting? He's not taunting. That's a great play by a defensive back. That's not taunting. He didn't point at anybody. He didn't show anybody up. He just outraced the entire Vanderbilt team to the end zone. That's something you mentioned, that college football can redo it, and I get it. The NFL has a point of emphasis this year in those taunting type plays. But you get excited, man, for a big play like those are slim for a college football player.
They literally take 6 points off the board. At the end of the day, I don't know if it's going to make much of a difference, because ETSU now
can run clock. But this is difficult now for Clark Lee, because you think about what he talked about when he first got the job. He wants to change the culture. You go back to the spring game and not having numbers on the players for the spring game, wanting guys to buy in, understand the investment, all of that. And you go out here in week 1 and you lay an egg, that's going to be hard for guys now to buy in. Say, Coach, everything you said we did, and look at the performance today.
Well, and of course, as everybody knows, the road, once you get to conference games, is a brutal one. and Vanderbilt hasn't won a conference game in a long time. You know, they beat Tennessee in 2018. That was their 3rd straight win over the Vols. And since then, they've gone 3-20. They've lost 10 in a row, and they're in danger of losing to an FCS opponent, which would be the first time an SEC school has had that happen to them in 5 years. It's just been a rough time, and sometimes it almost has to get a little bit worse before it gets better. This would be a little bit worse if you can't win this game. Tackle in the backfield for a loss on 3rd down. And you look at this schedule too, like it's not exactly Cupcake City, because at Colorado State, Fort Collins, that won't be a piece of cake.
Yeah, they just lost to an FCS. Colorado State did.
Right.
Or they lost to South Dakota State. So you can have 2 angry teams going at each other next week, losing to FCS schools.
And of course, South Dakota State's been a pretty good power here of late at that level, and then Stanford is certainly, that's a Pac-12 opponent. I mean, the best chance might be UConn October 2nd, because I don't know what's going on over there in Storrs, Connecticut with that program. And then you've got the gauntlet, 8 SEC games, and you're going to be in all likelihood an underdog in every one, and that's where it just wears on you. And we've seen that the last couple of years here in Nashville. So Clark Lee knows he's going to have his work cut out for him. You hoped and you thought that at least one of these guys would step up. That is the part that I just can't figure out tonight. And they weren't a good running team a year ago, but they actually threw the ball fairly well. It's the field goal lined up from 34. It's Keltner. But tonight, there's been no success passing the football at all. Now, ETSU, because of a taunting penalty, will have to take 3 instead of 6 or 7. The lead is still 20 with 3:29 to go.
And you mentioned on that Vanderbilt schedule, on that September 25th date when Georgia comes to town, Georgia just winning a big game tonight.
How about that?
As they beat Clemson in Charlotte.
That's your kind of game, right? Defensive game, 10-3.
Yeah. So you can only imagine what those Bulldogs will bring in that first conference game for Vanderbilt.
Well, why don't we turn that a little bit to big picture? I don't see anybody beating Georgia in the East this year. I think they're going to be in Atlanta, and then it comes down to, for my money, Alabama, unless somehow A&M can finally get over that hump and knock them off with Jimbo Fisher. But I think you could be looking at another Georgia-Alabama game. And here's a little fun stat for you. The last 3 times Georgia has faced Alabama under Kirby Smart, they have led by double digits at the half and wound up losing. That included last year. That included a national championship game, and that included an SEC championship game. But congratulations to Kirby and the Bulldogs tonight. UCLA leading LSU 21-17. That's in the 3rd quarter midway. If Vanderbilt can't come back and win this one, to be the first loss of the day for the 14 southeastern schools competing. And then you see the East, and you know, everybody could agree on Georgia 1. Most people agreed on Florida 2, and most people agreed on Vanderbilt 7. I think if you want to win money in Vegas, a 14 parlay, who's going to finish 3, 4, 5, and 6?
You know what? I'm not Kentucky.
You're high on Kentucky.
I'm not saying I'm high on. I want to see them develop.
Okay.
I know Liam Cohen, the new offensive coordinator, formerly with
Gonna open it up a little bit.
Los Angeles Rams, a guy who I've watched for the last couple of years down in, working with the Rams. I think he'll bring a different element. And when you're playing against Georgia, you're going to have to score points. No one's going to. When you think about SEC football, you think of defense, but if you're able to score some points, put some points on the board, you've got an opportunity to win.
Well, you hit on the key guy. And some people have said Kentucky on offense has been painfully conservative.
Yes.
You bring in a guy in Cohen who clearly is there to change that and open it up a little bit. They finally have a quarterback they feel like they can do that with. So I'm curious too, what does Kentucky look like offensively? They always have a good offensive line.
Right.
How does that passing game evolve now? I'll be in Baton Rouge next week to see LSU in person. Very curious what kind of bounce back season do they have. 2 years ago a national title, last year 5-5, and the worst defense in school history.
I think it all depends on the quarterback. And we're seeing that today throughout SEC play. Right? A lot of the question marks really were about Bryce Young and him taking over the Alabama offense from Mac Jones. And they didn't miss a beat. And you're seeing that, and I put that, in the performance of Ken Seals and Mike Wright today, that you had Vanderbilt playing a lot better because you had the return of Ken Seals, who played last year, and yet this doesn't seem like the same quarterback we saw a year ago.
No, not at all. I mean, he was the one bright spot on that offense last year, and it gave Vanderbilt fans some hope, some promise that you've got a guy you can build around. You mentioned the numbers in comparison to Jay Cutler his freshman year, and he completes 65% of his passes last year with no running game and a makeshift offensive line. You figure, okay, they've got their guy. Well, it just didn't show up tonight, and obviously, Mike Wright is going to get plenty more looks, but one way or another, there's some work to do on that side of the football, and I think too it all starts in recruiting. I mean, they're going to need to start picking it up here from a talent perspective at the skilled positions and give Clark Lee and his coordinators and coaches some weapons to work with.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be a program that'll be heavily into the portal. Okay, I mean, you have to. There's too many good quarterbacks out in the country that may not win the job at a certain institution, but you say, you know what? I can go to Vanderbilt, and this is what Clark Lee is going to continue to preach. It's competition. Nobody's job is won. And I think you felt comfortable what Ken Seals did a year ago, but he has not taken that step. I know it's only game one, and I know you don't want to overreact, but in one game, he does not look like the starting quarterback at Vanderbilt.
ETSU, meanwhile, this is one they're going to be celebrating a long time. A program that not that long ago, as we talked about earlier, went dormant for 10 years. They just didn't play. Then they got it back going. And then Randy Sanders comes in. His first year leads them to the playoffs. That was 2018. They're a respectable program and a very respectable league at that level. But you go on the road and you defeat an SEC team, that's something that's going to last a long, long time in the history books for this program out of beautiful Johnson City, Tennessee, in the mountains. Birthplace of one Steve Spurrier.
It was interesting talking to Randy Sanders this week, and I asked him to give me a good Peyton Manning story. Being around Peyton when he was at Tennessee as a running back coach, recruiting coordinator,
right.
and give me a story about Jameis Winston, because you're around two Heisman winners. You know how rare it is to win the Heisman.
Absolutely.
But for him to be around those types of players, but the one thing that he kept saying was these were guys, and Peyton Manning, Jameis Winston, and a lot of his players who love playing football.
Yeah.
They love everything about it. Love getting better. They love coming to practice. He was like, I just go out there and just let them go.
Yeah. His story on Peyton Manning was outstanding. He said he still remembers how big the Christmas tree was. He came in right around Christmas, And of course, a lot of people thought Peyton would go where his old man went, and went to Ole Miss. And he said what really impressed him about Peyton Manning is that he wasn't going to make an emotional decision. Peyton thought the best move for him was Tennessee. And to go, he was impressed by David Cutcliffe, Phil Fulmer. He wanted to make history at Tennessee. That's what he did. And the rest is history. There's an oh, by the way pick with $1:45 remaining. And that will be your final dagger. That is Sheldon Arnold, the true freshman out of Loganville, Georgia, backup safety. And a fitting end to this game for ETSU. They have dominated in every way, shape, and form. And defensively, they have absolutely been outstanding. We told you at the top, they were #1 in defense in the Southern Conference last year. They have been near perfect tonight.
I agree. Near perfect, I think is an understatement. They have played well from beginning whistle to the end whistle. I mean, just outstanding job. And we've said it before, they're playing without their best defensive player in Jared Folks on the sideline. We found out right before game time that he was not going to play. And I said that's a big void in that defense for ETSU. And Stephen Scott, number 42, the backup, he's had an outstanding game, right? He's the one that returned the fumble for a touchdown. We mentioned DeLentz with the interception. This defense, wow.
Remember, they had the 3 turnovers. They had another one that was just a drop. They could easily have had 4 in this ball game.
A lot of these total yards, it says 307, but a lot of them, to me, were garbage yards.
Well, you know what I call them? Empty calories.
Empty calories.
Yeah, there was some empty calories at the end of this one.
They let Vanderbilt have those yards.
When they needed to, they came up big. I know one thing, I'll be scoreboard watching the Buccaneers the rest of the year in the SoCon, and I can't imagine this team doesn't have a chance at another FCS playoffs.
Well, you just think about it. Coach Randy Sanders talked about it. It was an advantage to play football in the spring.
Yep.
You know, a lot of teams had spring practice. We were playing real games. And he thought the continuity, the chemistry that was built, this is just carryover. This is like rollover minutes. Remember when the old cell phone rollover minutes?
Oh, yeah, of course.
They're rolling this all the way over until week 1, and you could tell this was a team, honestly, Mike, that they were well prepared. They played hard, and that's a proud fan base over there, excited for a big victory.
Yeah, they will roll over back to Johnson City, Tennessee, with smiles on their faces. A historic win. The last time they beat a Power 5 opponent, 1987. Against NC State. Vanderbilt, the first SEC team to lose to an FCS opponent in 5 years. And that guy knows a thing or two about the SEC. Randy Sanders, longtime offensive coordinator in Knoxville. And you see the history that goes back to 1987. Randy Sanders, what a coup to be able to get him as your head coach. A guy with so much incredible experience at various stops along the way, whether it was Florida State, Kentucky, Tennessee, and now Randy Sanders trying to put his imprint on ETSU of the Southern Conference. Better days ahead for Clark Lee and Vanderbilt. Again, it'll be a growing process for sure. But tonight just was not the Commodores' night. 23-3, the final score as the Buccaneers pull it off.